Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Fantastic Mr. Podcast. I am Justin Strange along with my lovely co-hosts, Zack Briggs. Sorry, Zack, I almost messed up your name. I almost said Zack Kramers. Zack Briggs.
Yeah, our names get so confusing, doesn't it? What's up, everyone?
And Jake Kramers.
Well, hello, Justin.
Today, we're actually going to talk about one of the more famous maybe horror franchises is the Conjuring and the Conjuring Universe. So we all three watched the first Conjuring movie to prepare for this. You know, we didn't have time to watch every single movie in the Conjuring Universe, but I've seen the whole franchise. And when I say the franchise, the Conjuring Universe franchise a few times. So let's start with we'll start with the Conjuring, the first Conjuring movie, and then we'll kind of move on from there. The Conjuring came out in 2013, directed by James Wan, which James Wan did Saw. Correct. Yeah, he did Saw. Well, I couldn't remember if he did Saw or not. He did Saw.
Yes, he did Saw.
He absolutely did Saw.
He's kind of a horror master.
I mean, he kind of is. And then it stars Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, if that's how you say her name, and Ron Livingston, which if you guys know who Ron Livingston is, he's from Office Space. Have y'all seen Office Space?
No.
I'm aware of it.
Oh my God. And we call ourselves a movie podcast.
Hey, that's a TV show. Wait, no, it's not.
No, that's The Office. Office Space is a movie by Mike Judge, starring Ron Livingston and Jennifer Aniston.
I'm a little mixed up. Sorry, guys.
A little mixed up. He's holding. I was gonna say he's holding a can in his hand. Okay. And so this is kind of the first time I saw Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. Farmiga. I think it's Farmiga. This is kind of, to me, this is kind of how they got their start. And then, of course, if y'all know who Vera Farmiga is, she has a younger sister named Tasia Farmiga, who first time I saw her was on American Horror Story. And she's actually in The Nun, if y'all have ever seen The Nun. Okay. And so the story is about paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren work to help a family terrorized by a dark presence in their farmhouse. Ooh. So let's start with you, Jake. What did you think of the movie? Because this is your first time seeing it, right?
Man, this is my first time seeing it. And I have to say right off the bat, I am not a horror fan at all. I don't like horror. I'm a baby. It's not. And I realized.
A baby with a baby.
I've realized it's not horror necessarily, because I actually like horror. I like thrillers. I like mystery. I like psychological horror. I don't like jump scares. That's what I don't like. But the problem is when you just see trailers for a film, or you just see, the case on Blockbuster shelves. Oh, I don't have that anymore. Redbox. You just see the screen of the Redbox. You don't know what kind of movie it's going to be. You don't know if it's going to be a thriller and a psychological slow burn, or if it's going to be, a scare fest. So right. As a rule, I just stay away. And Justin, you had to work on me really hard and wear me down.
That's what she said. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what?
I said that's what she said.
The listeners are leaving.
I'm gonna try to get that. I'm gonna try to get one. That's what she said in every episode. Sorry, guys. Go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, after you wore me down, I watched it, and I actually found myself enjoying this. This is a really good film. Well, I did not expect to enjoy it. I came into this very apprehensive, and it turned out to be a delightful film. It was a really good film. I'm glad you convinced me to watch it.
Well, if I got to watch Cat, you're going to watch The Conjuring.
That was our agreements. For those of you who don't know, Zack and Justin have to watch my movie, which is Cats.
Ooh, movie. The movie. I know. I know.
Absurdist. Shut up, Justin.
I was going to say.
Absurdist film. I dare say, like, post-art critique. It is a lesson in the absurd and the strange. And so they get to watch that later for one of my episodes. And so in return, I had to watch this episode for Justin. It's a give and take.
It's a give and take. I mean, there's three of us, so that's how we work together, right?
Justin, you might be surprised by how much you love cats.
You might love cats.
Jake was surprised and loved The Conjuring, apparently.
But that's because this movie's better.
Ratings wise, especially. Yeah.
So what I did, full disclosure, because I'm a wimp.
You kept all the lights on and made your wife
kept I watched this midday with the lights on and the synopsis in front of me. And I know
the synopsis in front of you. Why?
Because I wanted to know when the jump scares were.
Okay. I was thinking just like just kind of like a summary of what I read. That's where my mind went. I get what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about the blurb on the back of the DVD case.
Right.
About, a synopsis, and it wasn't like a second by second synopsis, but it did give the basis of like, oh, Carol gets attacked in the basement, or a malevolent presence disturbs one of the girls. It was kind of like, okay, so this happens scene, that happened next. And it just gave me the ability to watch this movie and actually actually critique and actually watch this movie with a photographer's eye, as opposed to just cowering in the corner waiting for the next jump scare. Because I don't like jump scares. I can't handle them. I don't like it. So this gave me an opportunity to actually watch the film, which otherwise I don't think I would have gotten the full. I wouldn't have appreciated it as much as I did. There were things I was able to focus on and take note of because I could see how elements were leading up to it, as opposed to just waiting for the jump scare to occur. And it was really, really nice.
Okay, Zach, what do you think? You've seen this movie before, haven't you? Or was this your first time as well?
Oh, I've seen this movie plenty of times. I've on DVD. I could have watched it on HBO Max, but I just decided to put in my boxes of DVDs and
that's what I did.
Dig it out.
Not my DVD, but I watched the Blu-ray because I already had my PS4. I have a PS4 now, and I already have it on. Yeah, so I was like, screw that. I'm not signing into HBO Max right now.
Yeah.
Is it on HBO? I watched it on Netflix.
It's on both, I believe.
Well, I know the third Conjuring is definitely on HBO Max. So.
But I saw this movie in theaters when it came out in 2013. Oof. I think I just graduated from high school.
Just graduated.
I was in my junior year of college. But yeah, I remember seeing this movie, and just right off the bat, that music just sets the tone. At the beginning, tones, that dark bass, and
it reminded me of maybe I didn't have a good sound system, but it reminded when the logos were playing, it reminded me of like flies and like buzzing creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know me, like I'm all about audio and music, so I thought throughout the movie the somewhat subtle and sometimes overt use of not just necessarily music, but just sound
design
really carried the film for me. I think the importance of great sound and sound design in general in horror type movies is what helps create those emotions for the audience.
I noticed that as well.
When the Perrin family arrives at the house, they're all happy and I want to claim this bedroom. Like that first sequence, if you notice, it was trying to come across as a one shot take, even though I could kind of tell at points there was probably whether it might have been a digital cut, but I enjoyed that cinematography right off the bat. The family was not a family that I didn't disconnect with. I really felt like I was like a part of their family for a little bit, even though there's some of the girls I really didn't have much care for. But the mother was a great actor. She made me think she was actually possessed. I don't know who that actress is, but she was fantastic.
Well, I will talk about my take on the movie, I guess. I'm a huge fan of horror movies. So I have a guy I went to school with. He loves like slasher films. Not a huge fan of slasher films. I'm into like stuff that can make you legit scared.
You're into disturbing stuff.
I am really into disturbing. And I said this on our chat, the more disturbing, the better. So for me, like I've seen all these movies. I didn't see it in theaters. I don't even think I did see Annabelle in theaters, but I didn't see The Conjuring in theaters. I think I've always been in horror movies like this because the first horror movie with like a demonic possession that I seen in theaters was The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And I was like, man, that was awesome. And so I've always kind of been into it, just not as much until I became like an adult. And so I didn't see it in theaters, but after that, all the other movies that came out, I would go see in theaters. I mean, it's clear I'm super into The Conjuring and super into anything with demons in it.
Including Paranormal Activity.
And that's a whole other conversation. I can go on and on about Paranormal Activity.
Wait, why is that another conversation?
Because I would want to talk about it as opposed to The Conjuring. I don't want to talk about both movies in the same episode.
See, this is me, as I have no reference. So like I don't know if this was a really good movie, if this is an example of the kind of quality that a lot of horror movies are made of, or if this is just an exceptionally well-made horror film.
No, I think it's been an exceptionally well-made horror film because I've seen other movies.
This was a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, for someone who doesn't watch these movies, like you started at the top. Now all you can do is go down.
It's all down from here.
So I mean, there are other movies that try to emulate this format of The Conjuring, where they demonic, but they just don't do it as well. I don't think anyway. And it's not just The Conjuring. Annabelle, The Nun, which The Nun was okay. Then The Curse of La Llorona. That's La Llorona. Yeah, thanks. And it was okay. It's mainly The Conjuring and Annabelle for me. That I like about the Conjuring universe.
Yeah, I will say in my notes as I was watching, I wrote, quote, "This is an interesting film. Ed and Lorraine conversing with the family, bringing in a sheriff for assistance. It actually feels wholesome in places. It does a good job representing these people as real. The actors and actresses that play this felt like real people. The Ed and Lorraine did a wonderful job making it feel real. I believed that they were based off real people. I believe that these were professionals in this business. They weren't just kind of these two characters drawn up in a writer's room for the purpose of being the drive of the film.
Absolutely.
They did a really good job.
Just imagine how our level of enjoyment for this movie would have been if, for example, the family wasn't compelling. I feel like they would have just been wooden, and I wouldn't have cared for any of them, what happened to them. And I think there would have been a disconnect for sure between Ed and Lorraine and interaction with them, which some of the other Conjuring Universe movies, they have that problem with kind of wooden characters. In my opinion, you don't care what happens to them. It's just the similar formula of The Conjuring trying to be emulated in those movies, but it doesn't hold up.
The only Conjuring movie that I was like, that was okay, was The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which came out last year.
That was great. The most recent, isn't it?
Yeah, It was a good movie, but it was not as good as the other ones. Like,
do you feel they have started to reach the end of material?
I think they're getting towards it, but I think they're going to try to continue and stretch it out for as long as they can, because it's even they've already announced The Crooked Man, which he's in this one, right? Or he's in 2. Okay, yeah, and The Nun 2, which I don't know why they're making another Nun movie.
So are they going back and making prequels then of the origin stories of these ghosts?
Yeah. So like the kind of what they did with you see Annabelle, you meet Annabelle in this movie, and then they're like, oh my god, this doll's so scary, we need to make a movie. So that they made 3, and then we see The Nun in The Conjuring 2, I believe, and Annabelle Comes Home, I believe we see The Nun, and so they made a movie out of The Nun.
Is Annabelle Creation a good film?
I think out of all 3 of them, I really liked Creation because it shows, first of all, where Annabelle came from, right? And then not only that, we're not stuck inside of a house. Like in Annabelle, the first one, we're inside of an apartment, and then in Annabelle Comes Home, we're inside Ed and Lorraine's house the whole time. And this one, I mean, yeah, we're inside a house, but it's a bigger house. It's a lot bigger. Plus, we go outside some and all that stuff. So it's not. It just seems a lot bigger, a lot more area to cover. And it's just not modern times, So when Annabelle came out, well, no, it wasn't modern times in Annabelle either. It's like the 60s, but we were stuck inside this tiny house.
That's good to hear, because my one and only connection to the Conjuring universe is through Annabelle Creation, because that's directed by David F. Sandberg, who is a director that I'm a fan of because he started on YouTube, and I've kind of followed his journey into the Hollywood scene. So that's my one and only connection to the Conjuring universe, is through this one random director that I happened to watch before he was in Hollywood.
There's a lot of movies where I like the second one in between the first and the third one a lot, like American Pie 2, Toy Story 2. I like those movies better. And it's the same with this.
Kind of a nitpick, but I wish Annabelle stayed true to what she was supposed to be, which is a Raggedy Ann doll, not a porcelain doll that's intentionally made to look scary. I think a Raggedy Ann with its big old eyes and emotionless look could be scary in its own right. Well, I don't. Maybe it was a rights thing, perhaps. I don't know.
Zach, it was a rights thing. That's the one thing that I know because I follow
his
Mr.
buddy
Sandberg.
Yeah,
is originally they wanted to use a Raggedy Ann doll, and the company wouldn't let them use her likeness.
Well, not for that.
I could understand why.
Come up with something else.
That's what I'm saying. Well, they did a good job coming up with something else, if you ask me. It's like, absolutely. Okay, well, if we can't use this, let's use this bad boy. It's like,
yeah, it's not a major issue, but I mean, just visually, it's a big difference.
I like the Annabelle doll in the movie. I mean, I like the idea of it being a Raggedy Ann doll in real life, but I don't know.
It looks so innocent at Raggedy Ann, I think. My dad had one growing up.
Was it?
I had a Raggedy Ann.
Yeah.
All right.
Rite of passage. Justin, you didn't have one? You didn't have a Raggedy Ann doll?
No.
Why not?
Boo.
Because I was a boy. I was a boy.
I had dolls. I had little
Better children over the
babies.
years.
I put them in my little shoebox.
I had boy toys.
Say that again.
Louder, please.
Oh my goodness. Anyways,
okay, so let's talk about the whatever your name is, Jake. Sorry, I almost said Zach again. Let's talk about. So you mentioned that you wanted to speak on the parts that you thought were scary. So what were your scariest parts?
I actually made a note, like going through it. The majority of the movie is not scary. It really isn't. Nope. It's a lot of like red herrings, false alarms. Like, I believe at one point they're setting up the house to catch the ghosts in action, and like one of the doors open, and it's just like the cop going to the bathroom, stuff like that. There's lots of things that lead you up to think it's going to be a jump scare, and then they do something else, and it's just a red herring where it's explained away. So the majority of the movies is actually not that scary. It actually felt more like a mystery to me. I think it was a good choice, a clever choice to film the movie through Ed and Lorraine's perspective.
Lorraine.
Is it Lorraine?
Yes.
Yeah. Lorraine. I apologize.
Same thing.
Okay. Don't haunt me. I thought it was smart for them to shoot the film through their perspective, and it kind of almost gave a sense of security of like, okay, at least for me as a viewer, as someone who doesn't like horror films, it kind of gave me a sense of security of like, okay, there's a bunch of creepy paranormal stuff going on, but these guys are professionals. So it was kind of allowed me to pay attention to the film from a safe place. So it really wasn't that scary for most of the time.
Yeah.
I will say the part that was scary, the most scary to me, was the basement scene with Lorraine's, interactions with the ghosts in the basement. That was probably the most frightening part for me. I remember putting down my notes and actually just being engrossed in the film because I didn't want to look away. Creepy.
Is this the part where she sees the mother that killed her daughter?
It is the part that she sees the mother. It's when she falls down.
Oh, yeah.
In between the walls from the wardrobe upstairs. Sees the mother with the knife, and then Bathsheba hanging there. And
I was hoping she would have gone to Narnia.
It was creepy. That was the most creepy, frightening part.
Surprised she didn't break any bones falling through.
And then a surprisingly creepy portion was the premonition that she had with her daughter Judy and the floating in the
she was floating in the
pond.
water.
I was entirely unprepared for that.
Well, they probably just added that for the movie, but I get it.
I'm wondering why she had that premonition.
And it did a solid job of making me quite uncomfortable.
But the dog.
That was probably the witch.
They got the dog.
They probably, the witch probably killed the dog because it was pissing her off, because all it would do is bark at it.
And give her away. I literally have, it killed the dog. I'm invested.
I have a question. So how does it work with these demons, ghosts? Like if a random person just came up and saw a bunch of people scared and reacting to, I guess, the visual representation of these demons, would this random person be able to see these creatures as well? As I feel like sometimes you'd see in the movie, one of the kids is not, and it looks like they're interacting with nothing. Like, how does it work exactly?
Are we talking about canonically in film or in real life?
I guess
probably
maybe in film.
Well, I think
sometimes you see they're interacting with nothing. Other times you see the actual creature, and some they're like, "What? What are you looking at?" Like
watching it seemed like the only people who could see it were the people who were directly being
like targeted to see it. Yeah, and I think that's the logic behind it. Is the entity will let you see it if it wants you to see it. So like the youngest girl, she could see Rory, the little boy, but the mother couldn't. You remember she was talking to. It's kind of like Paranormal Activity with Toby. They could see Toby. The kids could, but the parents could.
I'm unaware of.
Could never see Toby. So yeah, it's kind of the same. And then whenever they're in the bedroom, back to the Conjuring, when the two girls in the bedroom, and the demon or the witch pulls at her leg, and then she's like, "They're so behind the door." She's like, she could see it. So I think the whole thing is like, if the demon or whatever wants you to see it, it will reveal itself.
Why do you think the demon targeted the mother as the conduit?
Because
it had to do with
it said why.
it had, you know, it was explained in the film. The demon originally was from a witch.
That's right.
And the witch killed their child and proclaimed their love for Satan and hung themselves.
Well,
and then put a curse. So it was like whoever took the witch's property would fall under the same curse, and therefore ghosts and specters, the habitual creatures that they are, they just possess continue.
So the cycle would continue if another family moved into that home.
Well, and it explained it in the film where like it possessed the mother so the mother can kill the child. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the mother we saw at the basement with Lorraine Warren, where she said, like, look what she made me do. Yeah. And so it's kind of the same thing where.
Why can't these demons just break rules and get the father possessed? Come on. He's stronger.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. Yeah. You think about it. Like it's always
demons going by the book. Come on.
Yeah. I guess it's true.
It was like a manager in hell. So like, Phil, what did I tell you?
We told you, stop possessing fathers now. You gotta possess the mothers. That's how it works. Yeah, it is explained in the film where like the whole thing started was the witch moved into that house or whatever, and she was accused of being a witch and all this stuff, and then they had a baby, and then the father came down and caught her sacrificing the baby in a fire, and to, you know, because it made him seem like higher status with Satan. And then she went out and hung herself and cursed anybody who lived on her
Satan
land.
So hard that you sacrifice your children.
All these movies, like this movie, Paranormal Activity does it. And then another movie I was mentioning to Zack earlier, The Last Exorcism, where at the end there you see them sacrificing the baby to a demon. And it's just always, that's just how it is, you know?
And then the latest movie, The Conjuring 3.
I've only seen that once. The devil made me do it. That's what
but in that one, you see the actual examples of someone trying to kill someone.
I need to watch that one again. That one I've only seen once.
Real life, essentially.
Can I say how well Lily Taylor did as the mom?
Oh, that's her name.
She was the actress. Wonderful.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. She was probably the standout.
Yeah.
Performance, just because
she was incredible. I've never seen her heard her before. She's probably a big actress in the horror film scene. She's probably in all tons of movies, and I'm just too much of a plebeian to recognize her. But she did fantastic. I believed every ounce that she was possessed.
Yeah, that's what Zack was saying earlier.
Those the blood-curdling screams, the moans, everything.
The scenes, the minor shifts in her features when she was possessed, after she was possessed, and how just like the small she did to change up her body posture and structure and more rigid, and just it was a great, wonderful job.
Did you notice how they kind of detracted? They didn't focus on her as much after her little episode in the bed. They just we're gonna save her toward the end when she takes her daughter back to the home to try to kill her.
Yeah, that's how you're like, oh my God, she's possessed. And in all these movies, like anytime they possess somebody, that's how they do it. They get on top of them and they essentially spit blood, or I think in Annabelle Creation, it's not blood, it's like a black sludge. Do you remember that, Zack?
Well, wasn't this a black sludge?
It looked like blood in this one. But
well, it was blood when she spit up, but when she was originally possessed, it looked like it was some sort of like goopy.
Maybe it was. To me, it kind of looked like blood, but
it was definitely a black in the.
It was an ichor.
Other one.
And definitely black in Annabelle Creation, where she does it to the little girl. But
I don't know what it is exactly, but it's some type of way for them to transfer into the
transferring liquid. Yeah,
yeah,
transferring vomit. Yeah. Anytime they did that, I never understood why, and then I'm like, oh, that's how they move in from one body to the other. I get it now. Anything else you guys want to mention? I kind of want to talk about my scariest part. I wasn't really scared that much, but having a surround sound system helped with the scariness. Because I didn't just have it on, I turned it up. I wanted to make sure I felt it all around me. Giggity. So anyway, I don't know if I wonder if that's copyrighted. I wonder if I'll get in trouble for saying
Giggity.
Yeah, let's find. Well, I guess we'll find out.
No, you got to say it like 2 or 3 times in a row or something.
Like, all right, you got to stop. Anyway, probably the scariest part for me was when she was first taken, like when she was possessed and they tried to bring her outside, and she started burning, but then she got knocked back trying to get back down into the basement, and she's like grabbing the walls, and then she screamed Roger. That part like gave me chills, because it's like, yeah, she's possessed, but she's also still in there. So anytime she was like herself, also possessed, and even the
heartbreaking.
The other times it was like, okay, with the first time when she was like Roger, like that's when I was like, oh, that part was probably the scariest. Now, like I said, with the surround sound on, it really amplified the like being in the theater and hearing things around you. And when the pictures fell for the first time and it made that huge crash, my freaking volume was up, man, and it was loud, and it kind of freaked me out just because it was loud, kind of scary.
And it was sudden because there wasn't any lead up to that.
No, it was just like you're like, holy shit, there's something going on in here. Like I thought it was inside my house. And so but it was, the movie, of course, but with the subwoofer and everything, when things happen, it's like but that was really it for me as far as scary parts. I do want to mention I like the way it looked. So you talked about that long take at the beginning. I think Zack talked about that, or Jake. That was really cool because you don't really see that in horror movies. It's just one long take and cameras spinning around and stuff. But then it also like had these moments where it would zoom in. First time I did that was when she was sitting at the tree and she's like, look what I found. And it zoomed into her. And it gave me that The Exorcist type vibes, like old school horror movie type vibes. You know what I mean?
That was the first thing that I noticed when watching this was the supreme use of zooms.
They did that
I'm so used to watching films that are on prime lenses and the camera is trucked or dollied or moved. Like the use of zoom was the perfect touch to create that sense of unease, that environment of like something about this environment is not quite right. And you can't place it yet.
But damn it, those zooms.
This not supposed to look this way. The world is not supposed to act the way it is acting on screen right now. And I noticed every time they did an exterior of that house, they did one of those zooms. And it wasn't one of those barely noticeable slow zooms, because usually in a feature film, if they do a zoom, it's a slow push, probably digitally added in post, where they just bump it up 10% and it's just a slow zoom as an introductory shot. No, they used the zooms in this film and camera movement in general as a tool. I noticed the zooms in this film. There's a couple good dolly zooms. They did some camera rotations.
Yeah, the upside down shots.
Some upside down shots. And when, I think one of my favorite shots was the first interaction with Bathsheba and the daughters when it grabs her foot and she looks under the bed.
Yeah.
Because it's upside down. And then it actually rotates to right side up as the girl sits up in the bed, and it follows her movement. It drew my attention. And otherwise, a scene that could have been your standard run-of-the-mill fare of, oh no, spooky sound, investigate, it became something that drew my attention and caught it and really put myself in the mindset of that little girl, just how unnerving and almost like her equilibrium. She's so scared that her equilibrium is a kilter, and it follows just kind of that scary, nervous sense of someone when you wake up from a dead sweat and you think someone's in your room. Very, very good job.
Man, that was a good rant there.
I like. Well, that was the first thing that I noticed. That was
words, man.
When I started watching it, that was the thing that drew my attention. From like, oh my God, I have to watch this for Justin and do this stupid.
And you're like, oh my God, I have to watch this for Justin.
Exactly. Like, oh shoot, they actually are using this.
You're welcome, by the way.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. This is a great film. I was very surprised, wonderfully, pleasantly surprised. I will probably not ever watch any of the other in the series, but this one was a good one.
Well, I mean, it was a good one to start and end with. That's kind of where it was at the top of its game,
Gotten really lucky that I seem to only run across the good horror films, like The Thing is a favorite of mine. This is a great horror film. I seem to find the classics, Alien, that are like
First Alien, that one's kind of crazy.
Yeah, Annihilation to a degree.
That are horror films, but they're really well done horror films that are artistically made, and I'm happy with that.
I don't consider Annihilation a horror film.
There's elements
I
of horror.
would consider Annihilation a psychological thriller.
Yeah, I would too. More sci-fi.
It's got one or two horror elements. It has a healthy dose of body horror in a couple scenes, but overall, I would say that's a psychological thriller.
Okay,
I was very close to adding it to my list, though, Zach. I was almost going to add it.
Can I tell you about something?
Rise that edge.
What do you guys think of that cellar scene where it's primarily from the view of the viewfinder of the camera when they go down there? I wish they would have changed the look of the footage or whatever, because it kind of looked just like HD. I don't know what kind of camera they were using back then, but I feel like
it was probably like a Super 8 or something.
Yeah, you were
because it was supposed to be film.
Yeah, it's probably a Super 8 or something.
So it was, I guess, it was supposed to look like that then?
Yes, that was supposed to look like something shot in the 70s because
I think a little bit more grain would have helped, maybe. I don't know.
The scene that it precedes is the conversation with the father at the church, because they've just watched.
Yeah, they just watched it on a projector. Yeah, so
that's literally. That is not only is that for our benefit as viewers, but canonically, that's essentially a POV shot of the father.
Well,
the father priest, not the dad.
That was the kid. That was the cop that had that camera when he was like,
yeah, but I'm saying write it down. When it was shown on screen for us, it was the priest watching it.
Yes.
I mean, okay, I guess.
I was just asking like the quality of that video. It was supposed to look.
I thought it looked okay. Yeah, it was supposed to look like that because we're looking.
It looked too good to me. It looked too good.
It was probably. I mean, they probably didn't use that actual camera to shoot that.
Yeah,
but I get what you're saying.
Is the audio supposed to sound like that as well, like as clear as we heard in the movie?
Probably.
I feel like if they added something, if they tampered with it a little bit.
Those are pretty clear.
Yeah, if you point a shotgun mic right at your face, then it's going to sound great. And then he did like this, and you could barely hear him because with shotgun mics, you have to point it at the person you want to hear if you want to hear them, really well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I was gonna say I wasn't disconnected or anything from it. Like I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense. Like I wasn't alive in 71, so I don't actually know.
I've seen 70s movies, and the quality is obviously different than movies today.
But that was a home, not a professional camera they used in the 70s to make movies. It was a camera they took with them to shoot these.
Yeah.
It's essentially like a home video.
Yeah, but the audio quality, in my opinion, shouldn't sound as good as like the rest of the movie for that POV shot.
I kind of would agree.
That bothered me.
I would think I would think it would sound a little bit more grainier.
Yeah.
But I don't.
That's all I wanted.
Just some grain. Write him a letter. So I just want to real quick kind of go over a little bit over who Ed and Lorraine Warren were. I want to talk about, and then some of the other movies in the Conjuring universe.
Yeah, were they really kooks? Were they frauds? I want to know that.
Okay, this is from Wikipedia,
a reliable source.
So of course we know they were paranormal investigators, right? And even the movie said they were one of the most famous paranormal investigators. And they didn't just stay in the US, they went to London and stuff too.
There's the Conjuring 2 based on the case in England? Or is that, I think it was.
That's the Conjuring 2,
yeah.
Where they go to England, yeah. So it says Edward was a self-taught and self-professed demonologist, author, and lecturer. Lorraine professed to be a clairvoyant, which if you know what a clairvoyant is, they can kind of see things that we can't see. It says a light trance medium who work closely with her husband. Mediums, I guess, are people that can talk to the dead. They were famous ghost hunters. And in Annabelle Comes Home, people make fun of the daughter for her parents being who they are, and I think that kind of translated from real life. If I've seen, if I remember correctly, they kind of people were skeptical about them, and even in the movies, it says people were skeptical about them, but they still used them, which is kind of weird. But
I guess when you have figure floating over you at night, take the skepticals. You'll take the kooks.
Yeah.
Someone says, "Hey, I can get rid of that ghost floating over your bed." We're like, "Oh, all right."
Well, the one thing I liked about this movie was, and I don't know this. I don't know if this is how they really were, but they went to a house that the couple claimed that the owners claimed was haunted, right? But then they said, "Oh, it's because you have this broken window. There's wind blown in, and then there's a pipe here, and the boards are going to rub together. It's going to make it sound like it's haunted."
And a rancid smell.
Yeah. Well, that was not that house, right? Because the parent house had a bad smell, right? I'm talking about the one where
he's talking about when they went and saw someone else.
Yeah, they went and saw somebody else.
It was an example of of how they were legitimate and they weren't just telling everyone, "Oh, you got
demons.
ghosts.
You got demons. I need you to pay me." It's like they were like, "No, this is why it seems like a house is haunted." And they even said like, "Oh, our house isn't haunted." And she's like, "They rarely are. There's almost always a rational explanation." And that's kind of like what I liked about them and whereas like I can't watch like a paranormal TV show of people who claim they're paranormal ghost hunters because they're not. Like they might have seen a ghost once or twice, but for the most part, everything that they do is created for a TV show, or at least I believe it is. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I believe that these TV shows that with people who claim to be ghost hunters, I just can't watch them.
Or Bigfoot, Sasquatch hunters.
I mean, yeah, because they create these things. It's like paranormal activity where it looks real, but it's definitely not. It's just not. It's found footage, but it's not found footage.
If only Ed and Lorraine had a TV show today.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work out for them. I think if they stayed as paranormal investigators without a TV show, I would believe them more than if they were paranormal investigators with a TV show.
Yeah, I was going to say if they were self-respecting, then they wouldn't have a TV show.
So, people want to believe. They want to see the real footage.
Well, it's probably not real footage. That's why I can watch a movie like that because I know it's not real. It's created. These cases that they've done are all based on true stories, and I'm not doubting that any of them weren't real, but I do know because it's a movie, things were added to make things dramatic. It's just that's just how movies are. Even like I watched this is gonna go off a little bit, but I've been watching American Crime Story about the impeachment of Bill Clinton, and they add things in there to make it more dramatic, just how TV and movies are. So not saying that the cases aren't real, but some of the things that happened in the movies, relating to those cases aren't real. Next up, so this is the order of the release date of the Conjuring movies. And by the Conjuring movies, I mean the Conjuring Universe, right?
Yeah, how many are there total?
So there we have The Conjuring, came out in 2013. Annabelle came out in 2014. Conjuring 2 came out in 2016. Annabelle Creation, 2017. The Nun, 2018. The Curse of La Llorona, 2019. Annabelle Comes Home, also 2019. Conjuring 3, 2021. There's 8 so far. And according to this website, horrormovieweb.com, I don't know how, now that I'm looking at the website, I don't know
That's
how
such
legit.
a generic name.
The Crooked Man and The Nun 2, which I have heard them talk about those movies. And by them, I mean like other more legit sites.
Are The Conjuring 2 and 3 a continuation of this family?
No.
Or is it just separate hauntings that they dealt with?
They're separate hauntings.
Yeah, they picked a case in London for The Conjuring 2. And then where's the case in Conjuring 3 take place? Like, do you remember?
So they're not technically technically sequels. They're more standalone films under the same name.
Yeah, they'll make references certainly to previous events, I believe, but for the most part, you could watch them as their own.
Yeah, you could definitely. I think you could definitely watch them standalone.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you could go watch The Conjuring 3 right now. You just need to know a little bit about Ed and Lorraine Warren because I don't think it mentions them in those 2 movies.
I'm just trying to piece together the intricacies of the lore.
Well, I like the ending of this one. How Lorraine's like, "Oh, we got to go have that visit because something at the Amityville hauntings." What Justin said.
Amityville.
Not going to say it, but I mean, we never see in the sequels exactly how the Warrens dealt with that famous case. But I would like to see a movie where they go deep dive into that case. I mean, we do see glimpses of that in The Conjuring 2.
You're talking about the flashback that Lorraine had trouble with. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't flashbacks. It was on film where they show her doing when they're at those lectures. Oh, okay. Then
yes, I would like to see a movie on that as well.
Don't they do the Amityville one in Conjuring 3? Now it's all coming back to me now with the Conjuring 3. That's with the little boy, and then he transfers his. I think it's his older brother or his brother's, or his older brother or his girlfriend's brother. I can't remember who says, take me, leave him alone. And so the demon takes over his body.
How polite.
Yeah. And so then he's possessed. Now that it's all coming back to me now. But they do mention the Amityville one. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, they mention it, but they don't go into it.
Okay. So that's the movies that are out already, and then a couple more that are coming out, which The Crooked Man,
that's been developed since 2018.
Yeah, and I don't know how long it's going to take because of COVID, but that's based off, and that's not based off anything true. I think this is all the Crooked Man is going to be, and I think the same with the Nun is all.
Yeah, they prioritize the Nun over the Crooked Man. I was reading.
Wait, so now they're just using the titles. They're not actually true stories.
Right. They're just taking things within those movies. So we got the Nun, who has appeared in a couple in the Conjuring,
okay.
and Annabelle as a character, and then gave her his or him. I can't remember if it's
so.
And then same
like side quests in a video game.
I mean, seriously, spinoffs.
So the Conjuring films focus on real stories with these artifacts, ghosts, what have you,
real cases,
and then these other films are fictionalized accounts of how those things came to be / their history.
Yes.
Right.
Heavily
okay. I'm with you. I understand. That's like, I don't understand the lore for this. So that's
there's the Curse of La Llorona, which is, originally set in Mexico. It was created, for this universe as well. It wasn't anything. I don't think it was anything true. And that one was probably, as far as likability, like the worst one out of all of them. It's the worst one, but it has Linda Cardellini in it. But I did want to go over how to watch the movies in chronological order.
Ooh, not that I'm going to do it, but yes, please.
So, and I'm going to read a little bit of something. This is on Collider.com, and I've seen Collider a few times, so I trust this one a little bit better. So, The Nun is the first movie in the chronology. So The Nun, which sees a priest and it's essentially a nun who's not a nun yet, played by Tasia Farmiga, which is Vera Farmiga's younger sister, nobody says tan-going, with the horrific Valak the Defiler. That's the nun. And we meet Valak for the first time in The Conjuring 2.
Wait, can you enunciate that for me?
Valak the Defiler.
Valak?
Valak. Valek.
V with a V.
With a V.
Not a PH.
Yeah, no. V. V as in, I see where you're going with this. V as in Victor. Thank you. I couldn't remember that.
Could they not have picked a better name?
So Valak the Defiler takes audiences all the way back to 1950s Romania. So essentially they're going to see, it's like at this old church, takes place in this old church, and they're essentially going there to see what's going on. And then we have Annabelle Creation would be the next one you would watch in the timeline. So this is David F. Sandberg's Demon Doll origin story. Annabelle Creation takes place 3 years after The Nun in 1955, Southern California. So this movie is about a little girl a guy who makes dolls, their daughter dies, and he stops making dolls, but they've made one doll. That's it. Annabelle. They've made this one doll. When the daughter dies, this demon comes in, pretends to be the daughter, asks to move into the doll. They let her, things happen, and they kind of shut themselves out for a long time. And then they let this group of girls who are orphans come live, because they have a huge house out in the country. They come let them live with them. Then one of them has polio. And so the demon, takes the weakest one, which physically is this little girl, and does things and possesses her, blah, 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 blah. I kind of want to spoil this for you, Jake. Are you going to watch it?
I'm never going to watch them.
So the cool thing about this movie is it's a prequel to the first Annabelle. And when it ends, she gets adopted, this little girl, right?
The polio girl.
Yeah, so she gets adopted, but then she grows up, but she still has this demon in her this whole time. And she ends up joining this cult. Yeah, she ends up joining this cult that in order to like rise up, they have to kill their parents. So she ends up killing her parents, right? Wait, hang on. So at the end of this movie is the beginning of Annabelle.
But she's an orphan. So
she kills her adopted parents, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
yeah. She kills her adopted parents. So, but at the end of this movie is the beginning of the first Annabelle movie that was ever made.
Oh,
it was pretty cool. And it even had the same actors from the original Annabelle movie.
Oh, well, that's pretty neat.
Oh man, it was so cool. I was in theaters when I saw this. Blew my mind.
I was going to ask though, isn't that what they said the demon asked to be moved into?
It's kind of the same thing.
Like, isn't that the first thing that happened in this movie?
It's the same thing, except for
is it the same demon?
It's I believe so.
So they exorcised the demon out in Annabelle, and then at the start of The Conjuring, it somehow got back in.
It might be a different demon, actually. I
think it might be a different one.
Yeah,
that poor little doll. How many times is it going to be possessed?
Well, it's not really possessed. It's just it latches onto the doll.
Conduit.
So, yeah, it doesn't possess the doll. Okay, and then we have Annabelle, and then Annabelle Creation, Annabelle Creation, and then Annabelle. So Annabelle catches up with everyone's favorite cursed toy more than a decade after Annabelle Creation in 1967. So the movie Annabelle Creation ends in 1967, right when Annabelle starts. So you watch Annabelle Creation, then you watch Annabelle.
Too many Annabelles.
Yeah. Okay. And then you go from Annabelle to The Conjuring, which was the one we just watched. So it takes place in 1971, and that's where we meet Ed and Lorraine for the first time. Takes place 4 years after Annabelle. Okay. Next up is a year later, 1972. Annabelle Comes Home. Annabelle Comes Home, a house of horrors thrill ride, primarily starring the Warrens' daughter, Judy. Takes place 1 year after The Conjuring. And if I'm not mistaken, that's when they take the doll home from the three people from the beginning of this movie. They get her and they bring her back. And then the movie starts from there.
Because they did mention, what did they do? They mentioned in The Conjuring near the end that they had to end this demon's family or they would be latched onto again. And I wasn't sure if they were referring to the family they were helping or they were referring to themselves referencing something else.
Referencing something else. I'm almost positive.
So they are referencing Annabelle.
I thought she was referencing the film that they were showing in the classrooms.
Oh.
But that's the vibe I got, is that because it had such an effect on her specifically, you know, that's the vibe I got from that. But
I gotcha. That makes sense. I'll take that.
Yeah, so this one takes place right after they bring Annabelle home for the first time. And so in the movie, Ed and Lorraine have to go on a case, so their babysitter comes over to watch Judy. But then also her babysitter's friend comes over too, and she kind of lets Annabelle out, and everything gets out, essentially. Yeah, right? Everything gets out. Like, that's where we meet the nun. I can't remember if that's the first time we meet the nun, but we see the nun in their house.
Just a smorgasbord of horror.
I mean, it's like Scooby-Doo 2, you know, it's just all these monsters.
Scooby-Doo and Friends.
There was a movie called Scooby-Doo and the 13 Ghosts. That's what makes me think of, where it was an animated movie, but Scooby and Shaggy accidentally let out all these ghosts and they had to put them back. That's kind of what that makes me think of. And then the next one is The Curse of La Llorona. It says the most far removed of the Conjuring verse films takes place in 1973. And I'll agree with that. It is the most, because like the story starts in South America, I think Mexico specifically, but it somehow makes it to America. It stars Linda Cardellini. If who knows Linda Cardellini, she's originally from Freaks and Geeks. She's in the Avengers franchise as Hawkeye's wife. She's also in a lot of other things. Like, she plays Velma in Scooby-Doo.
Green Book, I believe. I don't know.
Is she in Green? I haven't seen Green Book. I've been wanting to watch it because I think I might want to show my class that movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. Well, I don't know. It might be a rated R.
It's rated PG-13, but
Is
I still
it?
need.
Oh.
Yeah, I still need to watch it because
I have it on Blu-ray.
I started showing him Forrest Gump, and then and even though it's rated PG-13, I was like, this is not an appropriate movie to show in high school. I was like, I got to stop this. And so the next day I was like, we're not watching Forrest Gump. We ended up watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. To be honest with you, that one was kind of forgettable, The Curse of La Llorona, because it was just okay. Next up,
Ed and Lorraine even show up in that film?
No. So all these movies, Ed and Lorraine, besides the Conjuring movies, are hardly in. Like they're hardly in Annabelle Comes Home. You know, they're at the beginning and they're at the end. That's about it. The Conjuring is the one where they're in the most, because those are based on actual cases that the real Ed and Lorraine did.
Do they still get Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga to play Ed and Lorraine?
Every time Ed and Lorraine show up, it's Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, it'd be jarring if it wasn't.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. You know, it's not like the daughter.
They could do something like Jack Reacher, where it's a different actor every time.
Well, I'm glad they don't, because I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to accept that. Like, the daughter in Annabelle Comes Home is different from the daughter in The Conjuring. It's a different actress, but I don't care about that as much because we don't know her that much. You know, we really get to know her in this movie. Okay, so next up is The Conjuring 2 is the timeline of films. So a lot of these take place, you know, of course, back in the day, because that's when Ed and Lorraine were working. Conjuring 2 takes place in England, where a demon, Valak, is...
Valak.
I believe it's Valak, the same demon from
Enunciate.
The Nun, is haunting them in London.
Sheffield? What was Sheffield?
Okay. Whatever. England. How's that sound? Is that better?
I still can't get past Valak the Defiler.
Sounds like
Sheffield, a city in the English county of South Yorkshire.
Okay, but it's in England, right?
Yes.
All right, so in England. Sorry, everyone.
We have a UK audience. They want to know.
Okay. Yeah, they might get that. Takes place in 1977, so it's 4 years from Curse of La Llorona. And so, yeah, they go to England and, kind of the same concept as The Conjuring. They take care of a case, a demon inside of a house. It's a little more scary, though. Some parts are a little more scary. Like there's a part where they in the bedroom they have all these crosses on the wall, and then the demon takes them all and turns them upside down. And there's like a bunch of them, and they're just turning them upside down all over the place. And then the next is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It picks up 4 years after The Conjuring 2 in 1981. And so that's the one where the boys like, take me instead of him. And I've only seen that one once, though.
You think they become too formulaic, or do you think each Conjuring movie, the Conjuring movies have something different each time?
I mean, not really. I think they all follow kind of the same formula where it's like every horror movie, start off happy, bad things happen, they save them. Bad things happen, they save them. Bad things happen, they save them. It's just how it is. Yeah, so if you wanted to watch the movies in chronological order, and which I have done, and it's okay. Like, it's not like watching the Marvel movies in chronological order. They're just really, they're their own movies, they don't really run into each other, except for the only one I can think of is Annabelle Creation and Annabelle, where the end is the beginning of the next movie, And
to your viewers, it is somewhere in London, but it's an obscure city. I was thinking of my movie that I've been obsessed with recently called Threads. That takes place in Sheffield.
Oh, so that's why you said it.
The movie that you guys are going to have to watch one day that we're going to discuss is going to be that 1984 film called Threads. It's on YouTube.
Yes, sir. So, any other last thoughts about The Conjuring?
It's disturbing and fun at the same time. Not too scary to me, but more disturbing. I think it's a good starting point for those that haven't really delved into the horror genre.
Or watch something different than slasher films,
Yeah, I think just the blood, Halloween, and all those are great in their own right, but I like something a little bit more of substance than just the typical buffoons running around with knives and supernatural claws.
I do think they do a really good job at making you, not just making you think, but making you believe that this really could happen. Not saying it couldn't, but it's like, holy, this is real. This has to, make you think. So what about you, Jake? Any final thoughts?
Surprisingly, it had a lot of heart.
It did. I would agree.
Authentic, and it felt real, and it felt like there was substance to it beyond just jump scare.
It's a character building.
I'm glad that was something that was so well thought out and produced.
I like that. It wasn't like a bunch of people getting killed and stuff. It was just really, you could just tell it was really affecting this family, and they did a really good job at making you believe it was affecting this family and all this stuff. And then the actress who was actually possessed, like, sold that performance.
100%.
No doubt. Like, she was the star of the show. I mean, I know we have, two kind of big name actors now. I don't know if they were super big back then, but, they are playing these real people who did this for a living. But then you got the people who were possessed, where it's like they kind of are the standout characters in these.
A lot of horror movies and just have that stereotypical situation and problem, I think, where the characters suck and you don't care about them, including the Purge movies, in my opinion. I don't care about the families that get trapped having to seclude themselves in their home. Like, I think a part of it's the acting, the script, but Conjuring does an excellent job at establishing like why we should care about these people. Even though, again, I felt like some of the little girls, I really didn't pay too much attention, too much. But the little one, the littlest of them all, and then the one with and then the one at the fringe was, I think I cared about those the most.
Well, they're the ones that, it was messing with. Like, it wasn't even messing with the other ones.
Yeah.
And then the mother. Well, that's not true. It did mess with the older child as well, when it was like messing with the wardrobe, as Jake puts it. And then she looks up and it's on top of the thing and jumps down on top of her.
Wish they tried to kill the dad. That would have been interesting.
He was hardly in it seemed.
His acting, I think, blossomed toward the end, where during the exorcism scene, where he's like, get out of here, get out of the body, whatever he was saying. But he had a lot more emotion emotion.
So I'm not a big fan of like when they're like, you gotta get out of there. You're still in there. She's still in there. We got to talk to her. Like, let her know she's still there and all this stuff. And the end of A Wrinkle in Time, it was like, oh, the power all along was love. Like, I'm not a big fan of when the power is love, and love was all you needed or friendship. This movie did a good job at not making me think that it was cheesy and corny for them to be like, you got to talk to her, let her know she's still in there. She has to come out, because in between all that was her going and all this stuff. And so it kind of balanced out with that corniness versus the kind of scariness of the demon trying to also
it wasn't
fight.
An immediate fix. They used the power of love.
Exactly.
But it wasn't like that solved everything. She still had to choose and fight
to get out of there. Yeah. And I guess that's true. I didn't think about it like that, Jake, but that is a good point. It's like, it wasn't just like, hey, we love you. Come out, demon, get out of here. And then it was gone. It was like, no. If you want me out of here, you got to work at it, buddy.
You must choose the ones you love.
So yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Jake. Overall, you guys like the movie, I assume. Jake, Zach's seen it a few times, so Jake was the only one that had seen it for the first time. I wish she would watch the rest of them.
Not gonna do it.
At least Conjuring. I like the Conjuring, but I love Annabelle more than anything. Like, out of all the Conjuring,
if you guys set up some sort of watch party where we can watch it together,
Discord,
then I will watch it. But I'm not gonna watch it by myself.
Okay, that's fine. I can do that. I just didn't want to do that tonight where you're like, we're going to watch it at 9:00 and then do the podcast. Like, no, screw that. I don't want to stay up till.
You don't want to stay up till 2 a.m.?
It has video games to play.
Yeah, I have video games to play. Actually, my friend just texted me and asked me if I was getting on tonight.
Go take your rings to your elf.
Elden Ring?
The elder that you're taking your rings to, or whatever. Whatever you play.
I've been playing Batman Arkham City. Thank you very much. I stopped playing Elden Ring because that game is hard.
It is.
Dude, we're getting off topic. We got Elden Ring, and I've played it one time because I've only got an Xbox 360, and it takes half an hour for the loading screens to come up.
Dang. They have it for 360? Wow.
How do you have Elden
Not 360,
Xbox One. Okay, Xbox I was like, whoa.
But it takes half an hour for the loading screens to get done. And so I'll play for like 15 seconds, get demolished, and then just go make myself a sandwich because I gotta wait for it to load again.
God, that sucks. Anyway, sorry, we're getting off topic. So thank you for listening to the Fantastic Mr. Podcast. If we don't stop, if I don't say something, then we're gonna keep going. So thank you so much for listening to the Fantastic Mr. Podcast. Please hit us up on Facebook, Instagram. What else do we have? Twitter and YouTube at the Fantastic Mr. Podcast, and let us know, what you think, or what you liked, what you didn't like, or if you have any ideas for any episodes that we can do in the future. So thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you stick around, and we'll see you next week, right, guys?
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good one.